You know what a horse is, right?
Correct.
You know what a zebra is, right?
Correct.
You know what a donkey is, right?
Correct. Yep.
If they race, who will win?
And the horse will win.
The horse, and then what comes in second place?
The zebra.
And what comes in last place?
The donkey.
The donkey. So my question is, if you didn't know what they are, do they all three look alike?
To an extent, they do.
If they were all the same size and you just saw all three of them animals, or do they look related?
Yes.
So my next question is, when the race happens, who wins?
The horse.
What comes in second place?
The zebra.
And what comes in last place?
The donkey.
What is the donkey also known as?
A jackass.
What's the last word on jack?
Ass.
And that's what men chase. That's why they lose. They go after the ASS all goddamn day, and they lose because they chase ass.
Welcome to the Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast, starring Q the Boss.
Yo, 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 yo. Welcome back to another episode of Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast. They call me Q the Boss. That is diabolical. Today we talking that talk. Today we talking about the diabolical behavior we have in the culture. It's amazing how people don't see that there are so many cultures inside of one culture that you have to just herd with who thinks and behaves like you. Today we had a conversation about can we change people? But I realized that there are some people that don't want to be changed. Some people are content and complacent with their behaviors, consistently behaving the same, never seeing what's wrong with themselves. It's amazing how someone who can see is still blind to their own behavior. It's amazing how someone who can hear still can't hear the things they're doing and saying. It's astonishing. It's diabolical behavior. That is diabolical. It just, when you sit with people and we don't hold ourselves accountable to anything nor everything we do, but we justify it. This is a wrong behavior within itself. There are people right now that believe that educating your children will elevate your children. There are people who believe that throwing your children directly into the workforce is regular, and there are people who believe that living off of government assistance and being aided is normal. Right there, that's three different mentalities within itself, and all three of those mentalities are in the culture. So I realized you just have to herd and move around with people that thinks like you. Opposed to just constantly nagging and complaining, we must learn that everyone isn't the same. And this is the issue. You have multiple cultures inside of a culture. This is why the culture cannot intermingle. It's hard to unify people who don't think alike. It's hard to unify people who don't behave alike. It's hard to unite people who don't have the same mentality. But yet and still we all say because we look alike, we are the same. I disagree with that statement. Learning that there will be casualties in war. It's impossible to not have casualties in war. And the war we having right now is against the term called ignorance. Ignorance is the battle. Ignorance is the war. And ignorance is captivated the culture so much to the point that the most ignorant people can't see they're ignorant, because an ignorant person will find someone just as or as ignorant as them, go around them and continue to be ignorant. And this is the issue. But again, I ask, how do you fix what you can't see? How do you see the behavior that's wrong in our culture that we continuously allow, but not say that we need to say something? That's like knowing something is wrong, but not saying something. The person that says absolutely nothing is completely the problem. Today I had a conversation with a guy and I said, it's funny how I have to bite my tongue when it comes to talking to women because I know it gets them in their feelings, but yet and still when I talk to a man, I have to continue to behave the same identical way. I have to tiptoe around a man. I have to walk on eggshells when having a conversation with a man. So I'm asking my question, am I dealing with a man? I truly doubt it. Because I grew up where we tell each other the truth. And if you don't like it, you fix it. One thing about life is anything you're doing that you're embarrassed of is because you know you shouldn't be doing it. Anything you're doing that you're embarrassed of is because you know you shouldn't be doing it. Embarrassing things are usually things that you don't want people to know. But if you don't want people to know, then why do? The only thing I would say keep your personal is what's going on in your bedroom. That ain't none of nobody's business, right? But in the same breath, we don't realize that the diabolical behavior has captivated the culture too long, and it literally incarcerated the culture. People magnify ignorance to the point that ignorance has become the culture within itself. I've learned that certain things we have to change. Otherwise, nothing is gonna change. Sitting down without making a change but believing that there's a change is diabolical, right? A person believing economically they're gonna get rich sitting around waiting for nothing is diabolical. We say faith without work, but the word that should stand out the most in that sentence is faith without work is the word work. People believe they don't have to put in work, but they're gonna have great results. People believe they don't have to make great sacrifices, but they're gonna have great results. People are inconsistent with their behavior, but they believe they're gonna have great results. This is diabolical. That's like me waiting for a degree for a school I never attended. I'm waiting for my degree and I never attended a school. Right? This is what we're doing as a culture. But we just must learn to herd and move with people that think identical to the way we think. I genuinely believe you cannot change what don't want to be changed. You can't fix what don't know it's broke. And you can't elevate a mentality that is stuck in park, comfortably staying at the same level. Because some people have built something called a brick wall and it's over them and they believe they cannot surpass a certain level. But again, the ceilings that you have is what you allowed yourself to have, therefore accepting the ceiling. And it's sad because the people that accept the ceiling are people who can surpass the ceiling, but yet and still they go around people they tend to be doing a little bit better than. They say misery loves company, and every time I got the invitation to the party, I never showed up. That is diabolical. They say misery loves company, and every time I got the invitation to the party, I never showed up. Because there are a lot of people in the world today that are very miserable. They're miserable. And the only way to change them is by them seeing they need to change themselves. Nobody can fix you but you. If you're not challenging yourself naturally, how are you going to be great? Right? I'm tired of hearing that my mother wasn't in my life, so it was hard for me to, I get it, I understand it, but it's still not an excuse. Your father not being in your life has nothing to do with the fact that you're lazy. That is a conscious decision. You choose to stay in your bed. You choose to drag your feet. You choose to be inconsistent. You choose to lie to yourself. You choose to not do anything more than what's comfortable in your ways. It is sad when you see a human in their own way, rather than seeing that they're the problem, they want to adjust to the situation by ultimately constantly blaming others. We point the finger, but we don't allow the fingers to be pointed back at us. We look in mirrors, but we don't like the reflections that we see. Imagine avoiding the mirror all your adult life, never becoming an adult because you're comfortable being a child. It is sad that a 30-plus-year-old person still behaves like a teenager. We call them old YNs. It is crazy. They don't want to grow up. Yo, you know something crazy? When I watch videos and I see mothers and fathers who are considerably age, right? And they don't want to set an example for the next generation when they know things they've done already was wrong. But yet and still we teach the next generation the same mentality thinking they're gonna have better results. If that is not the definition of insanity, I don't know what is. If your father was a deadbeat, then you should be every bit of a strong father. If your mother was lazy, you should be every bit of a strong mother. Because it's sad when people keep the cycles going and don't choose to break cycles that they know are wrong. It's sad when we inconsistent with what we say we want, but yet and still believe it's still going to happen. I told you, misery sends out invitations to parties, and a lot of people choose to go to the party and join misery because misery loves company, right? It's a diabolical behavior. I'm asking this question, everybody on my live, at what age do you consider a man? I'm asking on my live, at what age do you consider a man? Let's identify these things. Because culturally, I think some will say different things from each other. At what age do you consider a man? I'm listening. At what age? I'm listening to my guys in the studio. Chris, what you got? You say 25, what you got, Dre? A man. Someone said 20, someone said depends. That depends, what you got? 25, you should be taking responsibility. Somebody said 12. What you got? You wouldn't put it up on it? But at what age do you start looking at a person like, come on? 30? I'm at 25. I think 25 is the years where you would literally be done with at least a bachelor's degree in college, right? Or your master's degree, right? So I'm assuming, I'm giving it about 25. You know it's scary when you meet a 25-year-old that still think they're 15? And the scariest thing about this statement, we have a high flux of single mothers in the Black culture, but we don't acknowledge that the single mothers, in most cases, will never date the sons that they're creating. But if you say this statement, right, this is diabolical. The single mothers, the other day I asked a man in my store, I said, I got a question for you. He said, what's up? I said, if I put your mother on the phone, and ladies, on my live, I'm giving you a gem. Men on my live, I'm giving you a gem. If you're dating a woman, right, call the #1 man influencing her life and said, I have a question for you. What's up? If this wasn't your daughter, if this wasn't your niece, if this wasn't your godchild, would you marry her? And then ladies, ask the mother, if this man was not your son, would you marry him? The other day I asked a man, and I called him out on it, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I like challenging men. I don't bite my tongue for men because I feel like men should be able to be honest with men, right? And if he takes it as an insult, it's because he knows he needs to fix it. A fat man only gets mad because he's fat. A lazy man only gets mad because he's lazy. It's just what it is. And if a woman is the same way, it's because she knows it's true. I've never seen a skinny woman get mad at being called fat. Unless she has like a sickness in her head, right? But it's things in our culture that we don't even fix. We just grace over it, right? But again, I asked this man, would your mother date you? And I said, if I put her on the phone and I asked her honestly, would you marry this man? You know, the men try to make every excuse in the book, but rather than saying, nah, she wouldn't. I'm gonna be honest with you, and this is me being honest, and I'm gonna tag my mother in this clip. I know for sure my mother would marry the man she raised. I know she would. And the reason why I can say that, because I'm at an age now where with my behavior, my actions, my consistency, that my mother allows me to lead her. I'm responsible for her finances, everything, because I know she trusts who I am as a man. Standing on your word is manly. Being consistent is manly. Sometimes the loudest roar is usually the softest man there is. Because you can roar don't mean you can actually fight a bill. You roar, but you won't fight a bill. This is the new generation of men. You would attack everyone that's telling you the truth. I know men who will fight a person but will not fight a bill to put a family in a better position. I know men who will fight for a woman that they just met but won't go fight to get their children better grades and into a better school district. This is the new culture. Diabolical. They did a challenge where they were asking the fathers of their children for $50, and these men didn't even want to give it. If my child has a price tag, and I see my child as a price tag, then I'm not a good father. Because in order to raise a healthy, great child, money shouldn't have no limit. And you should be willing to do everything possible financially for your child if you say you love your child. Whether you're with or without the person. Naturally, if a man and a woman breaks up and a woman looks at her man, right, her ex-man as a bad thing for her, but understands that he is a good asset for her child, then she has hit something called the grown woman status. If a woman can't see whatever went on between her and her baby's daddy or her child's father, and she takes it out on the relationship that she has with her child, she is a diabolical woman. Diabolical. That is diabolical. And that's the woman you have to frown your face upon. Because in the culture I move, we don't justify that. We don't allow that. We don't hang out with people that do weird stuff. We have standards, we have rules. If a man is not taking care of his child, he could never be considered a friend. I have no friends that don't take care of their children. And the sad part is I don't have to tell them to take care of their children. Because naturally, the men I'm around represent me. And the men that they're around with me, I represent them. And we hold each other accountable. There is no excuse amongst the people I consider my peers. If a person's being lazy, not investing, he's gonna hear my mouth. Because I care about their future self more than just their current self. Because a true friend looks out the long-term effect that will affect their friend if you're truly a friend. The truth has to hurt. But with hurt, healing starts. With hurt, healing starts, especially when you know it's true. When you can identify exactly what the problem is, then one can fix the problem. But you can't fix no problem that you can't identify. You can't adjust anything that you don't see is too loud. This is the culture.
Real quick, I just want to give you your flowers because if it wasn't for you, I would have never got back into investing.
Thank you, I appreciate you. That's one of my guys. And again, I care about his future self. So one day I said to him, yo, bro, we're gonna dish you every time you come around us if you don't start putting things into your IRA every single pay period. He looked at me like I said, listen, you can find money to waste. You better find money for your older self because two types of things happen. Just stay with me, watch this. When you go to a mirror, you look at yourself in the mirror, right? You see the current you, right? Then I go tell you to go get a picture of your younger version of you. You'll go get that picture. And when you go get that picture and you look in the mirror at the picture in the mirror, right? You have the current you have the old you. Either one or two things happen when you look at that picture. Either A, you'll be upset at the things your younger self did that the current person that you're looking at the mirror at is the reasoning to why. That young person is the reason why that person you're looking at the mirror at, you're mad at. Because that young person did not think about the older person that you were eventually gonna get to. And that's the culture. When you're sitting there looking in the mirror, you see your current space. But when you look at your younger days, either A, you're gonna smile with joy and be like, oh, those were some good old days. Or you're gonna have a hell of a lot of regret. It's a choice. It's consciousness. It's decision-making. That is diabolical. It's diabolical. The behavior, right? How does a man or a woman put someone else before their child. How do you do that? There is no way in hell I could ever not love my children more than I love myself. I can't understand how a human can live with themselves knowing that they've created life which represents them and they don't give a damn about it. So I'm asking myself, are you portraying that you care about yourself? Because if someone truly cares about themselves, they will ultimately love what comes from them. How do you forget about it? How do you act like it never happened? That's diabolical. That's diabolical. Ladies and gentlemen, why are we trying to be our children's friends? Why? Listen, I always told my son since we were young, I got enough friends. I don't need a broke best friend. And I'm not gonna hang out with you because that's the cool thing to do. No, I will spend time with you to get to know the new person you're becoming. But I don't have to fit in with you and your friends. I'm comfortable with my audience. When did it become uncool to get older? When? I'm asking, when did it become uncool to get older? I thought it was a blessing. But some people do not want to admire the blessing that they're receiving, ultimately staying young. Not in age, but in action. Young in mentality. It's sad when you can see someone who hasn't grown, but yet and still believe they've grown so much. Every time you talk to them, it reminds you of what you ran away from. I had to tell a friend one time that I used to be close with, I had to stop hanging around you. He said, why? Because around you, I can't grow. Around you, I can't elevate. Around you, all we talk about is the past. But a lot of times, you don't have to worry about what you did wrong. You got to worry about what you're currently doing now. Living in the past without being able to change it cannot affect anything, but living in your moment can ultimately change where you're going. It's the power of now. Never mind where road you went down wrong is about you still making the same poor decisions that you made when you were younger. Unaccountable behavior. Unaccountability. Lying to ourselves, giving ourselves every excuse there is. I know people right now who date people who are identical to their ex, right? And yet and still wonder why they keep getting the same exact results in relationships. Your last mate is the same exact person you're talking to now. The only difference is they have different names. The laws of attraction. You can't tell me what you are. You show me who you are based on who you allow around you. 9 out of 10 times you have to understand it's an allowance. We like to say we have adult privilege. And adults can allow who they want and don't want around them. So when you say, oh my God, the people are like this and people are like that, it's because you allow it. People can only do to you what you allow them to do, right? But again, you're gonna blame others for what you allow them to do to you. Listen to that statement. You're gonna blame others for what you allow them to do to you. Believe you me, a thief is smart. They know that certain people, if I touch their stuff, they're gonna break my hand. And there's thieves that know that if I take their stuff, nothing ain't gonna happen. They're not foolish. They're not delusional. They know better. Because I would rather stand on every principle I have than to compromise my principles, integrity, and morals. I think integrity, principles, morals are on a decline. We cook in a recipe of life called subtracting morals, subtracting principles, and subtracting integrity, heavy on the insecurity, heavy on the laziness, heavy on the excuses, right? Adding, which will ultimately equal failure. Let me say that again. We're adding excuses. We're adding laziness. We're adding inconsistency. We're adding no accountability. These are the things we're adding in our lives. We're adding more ego. We're adding pride. And this is a recipe for disaster. You're sitting there stirring it up. A recipe for disaster. We added more jealousy. We added more animosity. You know the scariest thing about overwatching someone else is the thief of joy. It is a thief of joy. Comparing yourself to others is the thief of joy. Always watching someone else's lens. But I'm going to tell you something. Some people have mastered the art of the illusion, showing you what they want to show you. I got a good friend, I think I told you the story. He put the dollars all in the bouquet of flowers. He's an influencer. He said he knows social media wants to see this. He said the women ate it up like it was chocolate. So he put the bouquet of $100 bills and gave it to his woman for Valentine's Day. Oh my God, Tyrone. And then guess what happened after that? He took the $100 bills and put it back in his pocket because he knows social media wants to see these things. Propaganda, SEX, and perception all sells. And it is the highest ticketed value when it comes to social media. Propaganda, right? These things sell like crazy because diabolically we believe that behaving a certain way will get you to the levels. We have a very inconsistent culture. A lot of us don't stand for nothing. That's why we fall for anything. A lot of us don't stand for nothing. That's why we fall for anything. What do you stand for? When you look in the mirror, are you proud of what you see? So I ask the fathers on my live right now, and I'm curious who will say yes. I'm gonna ask y'all this first. As a father, would you mind if your daughter married a guy like you? I'm gonna wait. And I'm gonna wait. And I don't wanna hear about your earning, I wanna hear about your mental. Forget the earning, we talking about mentally. Because I met some rich bozos out there. I met some very wealthy bozos. So I'm asking my man on my live, would you walk your daughter down the aisle with a man that's just like you? Would you? Chris, would you? Dre, would you? 50-50, what you got? Dollar said no, what you got? Said yes? I'm saying? She said, well, someone wrote, where are the no's? Listen, some people live in their lie. This is why we can't fix it. That's why the culture is so diabolical. Because there's a bunch of people that's gonna go around people who are gonna lie to them. Like, you a great man. I know a man that smokes every single day, wastes all his resources on Jordans and clothes, and then look at himself like, don't you think that you're an influence for your daughter? But if your daughter brought you home, you'll be mad as hell, which is crazy hypocritical. That is diabolical. I'm lost. If your daughter grew up seeing daddy buy nothing but Jordans, clothes, and shoes, right, while feeding into his insecurities, chances are they say your daughter is the first love is her father, right? So therefore, now her seeing daddy, right, I'm going to be the same thing. Somebody said those are fans instead of friends. Someone call in right now, 516-253-1150. One more time, 516-253-1150. Call in right now. We're talking about things that we do in our culture that's diabolical, crazy. Some of the things that we do in our culture that are crazy. There's so many things that we do that I am not attaching myself to it just because someone looked like me. I'm not doing it. I'm not running from my children and talking about I'm a great father. Yo, I got a family member that I love to death that started dating a guy that didn't take care of his first kid, and she thought he was gonna take care of her kid. But then she's mad that he's not taking care of her kid. Some people have patterns, and when you learn their patterns, it's on you to accept it or just, it is what it is. Because a lot of people show you who they are, it's on you to see who they are, because sometimes when people show you their colors, the problem is we try to repaint them. We're trying to repaint people. She showed you all the red flags, he showed you all the red flags, but you're trying to paint them green. You're trying to be colorblind to the truth. I know he gonna change one day. She gonna change one day. And by the time you realize that you done changed more than they ever changed. Because a toxic person can only make an unhealthy, say if you're not toxic and you're dating someone toxic, you are eventually gonna start becoming toxic. It spreads, it's very contagious. Toxic behavior is a very contagious thing. And you notice it because if you see the level of influence that drill music has on our culture, the young people, just look at it. It got the kid that could be the A student thinking he's a drill rapper because he puts on a mask and he walks around parading like he's a killer with a Nike Tech on. This is sad. But again, sometimes we have to realize the men that we talk about, the women and their single children. But the last time I checked, it takes a village. So even though we're talking about the mothers that are single mothers, we're not seeing that it takes a village to help raise these children. It takes a village. The other day, a guy came into my store and thanked me for help raising his son. And I looked at him and said, I don't want flowers for that. He said, why? I said, because I'm just doing my job. If every human on earth thought that way about the youth wouldn't be so less behind. A lot of them can't even represent themselves because they were taught by very sick people how to be sicker. Look at the code right now, that's to take advantage of people. Where does that come from? If a child never learned how to play with other children, it's because you allowed your child to be selfish. Now you got a selfish adult. A lazy child becomes a lazy adult. An excuse child becomes an excuse adult. An inconsistent child becomes an inconsistent adult. Every time you look around, you see 3 kids, 3 different iPads, not sharing one. But teaching them that everything has a timestamp. You get 20 minutes, you get 20 minutes, you get 20 minutes, and you learn how to share. But you ain't teaching these children how to share. You're teaching an individual mentality that's gonna ultimately create individual behavior. Selfish. Excuse-ridden. A poverty mentality starts as a poverty mentality before it even knows what poverty is. Because before you know you're poor, you'll be poor thinking you're rich because you come from an environment that taught you this inconsistent behavior. How to remain in poverty. Think about this. You've grown up in an environment that taught you how to be poor before you even knew what poor was. You're not hearing me. You're not hearing me. You're not hearing me. You're growing up in an environment that's teaching you how to be poor before you even know what the hell poor is. And we call it projects. We call it hood. We call it the ghetto. But the one thing you learn in life is you can inherit hopelessness. And that's our culture. We have a very hopeless mentality. We consistently fake it till you make it, but I realize that most people that fake it never make it. Damn. I'm gonna fake it till I make it. But sometimes you fake it so long, you start playing the character that you true to try to play who you was. If you can't tell yourself the truth, then the lie will start becoming your truth. If you can't tell yourself the truth, your lie will start becoming your truth. And this is the behavior, the mentality of our culture, the inconsistency, the lack of integrity, the morals, right? I got women that say they want a relationship like a grandmother, behaving like a 304. You want the relationship of your grandmother, but you're promiscuous. Damn. That is diabolical. You want a woman to submit to you, but you barely want to work. You want your child to look at you as a father, but you was never there when they needed you. Damn. This is weird. I got a guy mad the other day because I said a comment to him. And I'm gonna tell y'all something. To my simpy guys, weak men who think that letting a woman walk all over them is cool, I'm gonna tell you something. Even if a woman dates a guy that she walks all over, she will always see the alpha man as more attractive than you. Let me say that again. To the men that says, happy wife, happy life, let your woman win, always giving in, the man that does that, the woman will always see that alpha man as being more attractive than you. And you know how you know this is true? Ask a woman that. My woman on my live right now. Let's say hypothetically you have a man that's very passive. He always allows you to win. He always bites his tongue. He's inconsistent with what he want to say to you. He just lets you win all the time. But then you walk into a room, you see a very alpha man. My ladies on my live, would you be more attracted to that guy? I'm asking a serious question. Yay or nay? Even if you don't cheat, would you be more attractive to the alpha man? Someone said yes. Yeah. We know this to be true. And you know what it is? Naturally, most good women want a good man to submit to. Most good men want a woman that's respectful. Most good women want a man that can provide. Most good men want a woman that's going to follow his lead. But again, you have to give the examples of the behavior before the person willing to submit. Women don't submit to what's not submittable. And there are women that's just not leadable too. And there are men that are just not good leaders. Letting a woman walk all over you ain't good. It's not healthy. It's toxic, right? Well, you'll say, you know what? That's just how she is. No, that's just how she gonna be because you allowed it. I remember one time one guy said to me, the funniest thing on earth. He said, we was talking and his woman got real disrespectful. And he would say, you know how women is? I said, no, that's how your woman is. Because I don't tolerate those things. I don't go for it. He said, why? I said, because I can replace it. I don't sit down and waste time trying to make a woman learn how to save. I find a woman that saves. I don't sit down and argue with a woman that's argumentative. I'll find a woman that knows how to control her emotions, even in anger. I'm not going to tell a woman to read your Bible. I'll find a woman that knows God. The problem is it's like we suffer from separation issues, right? Abandonment issues, codependency. Because rather than arguing with someone for being the way they are, I'll just find something that represents exactly what I want. And I'm comfortable with being alone until then. And a lot of people aren't. They will fight someone to be something they're not, never becoming it, because in my book, right, and I say this statement, in my book, I talk about the 3 animals that look exactly alike. 1 is the horse, 2 is the zebra, and the 3rd one is a donkey. And I want you to answer this. Chris, take the mic for a second, Chris, right? I want you to answer this. Stay with me, right? You know what a horse is, right?
Correct.
You know what a zebra is, right?
Correct.
You know what a donkey is, right?
Correct. Yep.
If they race, who will win?
The zebra.
You think the zebra beat the horse?
Actually, no, I'm bugging. The horse will win.
The horse, and then what comes in second place?
The zebra.
And what comes in last place?
He just said that. He just said it too. The donkey.
The donkey. Mm-hmm. So my question is, if you didn't know what they are, do they all 3 look alike?
To an extent, they do.
If they were all the same size, and you just saw all 3 of them animals, or do they look related?
Yes.
So my next question is, when the race happens, who wins?
The horse.
What comes in second place?
The zebra.
And what comes in last place?
The donkey.
What is the donkey also known as?
A jackass.
What's the last word on Jack?
The last what?
What's the last word?
Ass.
And that's what men chase. That's why they lose. They go after the ASS all goddamn day, and they lose because they chase ass. They look at the ass. They don't look at, I'm going to tell y'all something. I want y'all to hear this on my live. If I can't close my eyes, and Dre, Chris, everybody listen to this good. If I can't close my eyes and be attracted to a woman without seeing her, that means she is not beautiful. I have to be able to close my eyes, have a conversation. Imagine dating somebody for 6 months without seeing them, but yet and still you have blindfolds on. Then you'll know if you're really attracted to somebody. Because aesthetics wear off as fast as you saw it, it goes away. Once you start dating somebody and realize how ugly they are internally, you'll see that that person is ugly as hell. Beauty is not a freaking physical attribute. It is an action attribute. It's how you behave. Beautiful is how you act. Ugly is how you act. When you look at that statement, say that again, look with me. If you can put a blindfold on and date somebody for 6 months with a blindfold on, you will be able to see their true character. ultimately meeting someone and aesthetically pleasing yourself. Because naturally the mind can play tricks on you. I've seen people in a club wear cubic zirconia, but yet and still it looks like a diamond. But aesthetically it looks real. And that's the same thing how people are in life. They're fake. They're moistenites, right? Because again, we look at the aesthetic aspect, we don't look at the mental aspect. Once you learn somebody, you'll start seeing that behavior patterns will turn you off on a person. I've always say, if you can see, you're blind. Okay. What you got, Chris?
I was gonna say real quick, they're GMOs.
Elaborate on that.
Genetically modified organisms.
A lot of people are like that. 100% facts, right? But when you have these conversations, it's hard to adjust mentalities. Someone said to me the other day, the dating pool is messed up. And you know what I told her? I said, the dating pool is not messed up. It's the pool that you're getting in that's messed up. You consistently stay at the shoreline because you're comfortable knowing that there's something under your feet. But the moment you walk out too far, you run backwards because we stay in date what we're comfortable with. So imagine if you chose to go into a deeper ocean of people, you'll see that naturally there are better fish in the sea than if you stayed at the shoreline. But again, a lot of us don't like the fact that you have to go through the waves sometime. And this is the issue. Our culture has a sick mentality when it comes to relationships. This is why we procreate sick relationships. A lot of people date directly in their backyard. A lot of people date directly in their backyard. I know people who literally only date people that live right around where they live. But how can your eyes see anything different if the mind isn't taken somewhere else? The one thing I always love about life is if you come from a broken situation and you meet someone who has a healthy situation, it can ultimately change the way you think about your situation. Because with procreating life, you can breed out certain generational curse that we have. Think about it. If I'm a man who comes from a broken home and I'm choosing to find a mate who don't want to ever create that again, that is too, they call it trauma bonding. But it's also deletion of trauma that you can do by working together to elevate yourself out of that hole that y'all started in. Meaning a man and a woman accepts that we need to change this. This is not right. This is abnormal. I'm tired of seeing people get dressed up for the wedding, but they don't get dressed up for the marriage long term. I'm tired of seeing people dating for what people can do for them rather than what we can do with each other. That is diabolical. This is the culture. And if you say anything otherwise, you become the problem. You get called the hater for speaking facts these days. I am not hating on someone I'm doing better than. Let's establish that. I will never hate on someone I'm doing better than. I think it's weird to say someone is hating on you because they see you doing something wrong and they tell you you're doing something wrong and you don't want to accept that you're doing something wrong. You have a problem. Your mother and father kind of like blood related because something wrong. Something wrong. You agree? But again, we don't like to talk about these things. At what age, I'm asking again, is a woman considered a woman? At what age? What you got? At what age, guys? What age is a woman considered a woman? We said 25 for a man. What you got, Chris? We said 25 for a man, 25 or 28, I give it that. 25 for a woman, what you got? What about you? 25? What you got? I agree. Which I got on my live, guys. At what age is a woman considered a woman? Someone said, I told my ex something and they told me I'm hating. I don't know what's up with this culture. Call in right now, tell a story. 516 someone. 253 1150. 516 253 1150. Someone said 18. That's very young. Right? Go down, kids. Go down. Right? Someone call in right now, 516. We talking about diabolical behavior. We passed those two. Scroll. Right? At what age is a woman considered a woman? You know what's sad? And I'm going to be honest with you. You see a man on a bus, he's a bum. You see a woman on a bus, she's doing the best she can do. It's diabolical how biased the culture is, right? It's sad. Someone said, I don't think there's an age because a woman, to me, is someone that's mature. Maturity doesn't have an age. I agree. Chrissy, I agree 100% with that statement, right? I told you go down. We entered okay. You know what's sad? And I'm going to go on record and say this. The things that broke people do, that they think that rich people see them as rich because they do it. I'm going to tell y'all something about rich people. Rich people can spend money effortlessly and know it's not going to put them in a deficit to do it. It's sad when you see broke people do rich things knowing that it's going to put them in a deficit, but yet and still believing that as long as I can continue this poor behavior, I'm going to build a level of wealth. And to me, that's diabolical because it's never going to change your real situation if you don't change your real situation. It's crazy how I watch kids go to school with a $1,000 jacket on and a $1,000 pair of shoes on, but their mother and father don't want to pay $1,000 for rent. Right? The world is so diabolical. It's crazy. And I sit back every day and I'm observant of it. But in my breath, I'm saying to myself that I have to realize that everyone is not meant to come for the full journey. That's why a bus has stops. Damn. It took me a while to realize that everyone is not meant to come for the full ride. That's why a bus has stops. And every time your bus stop, called life, you have to let people off accordingly. Some people are meant to come for a few chapters. Some people are meant to come for the most of the book. But it takes an elite, special people to go all the way through your book with you. Because when you learn that people should be around you that serve a purpose, and you should be around people who life, you also serve a purpose. But if you're around people who serve no purpose and you serve no purpose, then what is your purpose? What is your purpose? What is your purpose? Because being around the distracted will only get you distracted. Imagine taking a time test with all the class clowns in the room together, all misbehaving, and wondering why you can't focus. Sometimes we put the loudest noises around us that keep us distracted. Life is about tunnel vision, focusing, locking in. I told my guy the other day, Tyler, I said, I don't want to get into any other investments. He said, why? I said, I want to focus on what I need to focus on. Because delegating energy all over the place, sometimes you lose focus on the things that you need to focus on. Next thing you know, you're working on this, and then you forget about this, and then you're working on this, and you forget about that. Something gets neglected. Because no man and no woman is an island. No one is an island. But we have to learn that in order to achieve, I have to believe. And by believing, this will allow you to achieve because you go around people who believe. When was the last time that you and your friends or your mates sit around and did a vision board together? When? What is the vision? What is the goal? What are we seeking to accomplish? I'm going to tell you something. It's bad when people get comfortable in bad situations to the point they lie about their situation because they're uncomfortable with their true situation. Today, talking to a young man today, and he said to me, I don't care if he get mad, I'm snitching. He said to me, I wouldn't want to bring my girl around you because I know you could take my girl from me. I said, what'd you say? He said, I wouldn't want to bring my girl around you because you could take my girl from me. He said, you're more brolic, you got some more money than me. And I told him, I said, you already lost her because of the fact that you lack confidence. Women like very confident men. And the sad part is, money will not unlame a lame. A clown, whether under disguise or not in uniform, will still be a clown. A fool can say a big word and sound like a fool saying the big word. Because you can't unlame a lame. A lame is a lame, right? And again, you get on the live, you get the weirdo trolls who will be like, he just chatting. And again, those are the people I be talking about. They're weird. And then they hide behind private icon pages because they're scared of people seeing them. The scariest thing is watching some of these videos and you watch a woman go from just looks-wise, a 3 to a 9 with makeup, wigs, and all of these. It's crazy. And that's who they truly believe they are. This is so scary. You cannot unlame a lame. They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But what if the beholder don't even know that they're beautiful? What if the person don't even know that? It's scary when you meet attractive people who don't know they're attractive. That is so scary. Talented people don't even know they're talented. Because you know why most people, what they go through in the beginning of pursuing? They look for confirmation from people that's around them. The immediate circle, the people, they day ones, the earlier people into the ideal of your beliefs. But along that journey, sometimes you start letting people go because they don't see what you see. And it's nothing wrong with the fact that people can't see what you see. Because your vision is your vision. Your goal is your goal. Your idea is your idea. And you can't force people to believe and see your idea. There's nothing wrong with doing things alone until you find the people that add value to the goal, to the journey, to the belief. Again, because you don't have to be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but you better know how to cut. I always tell my son, you don't have to be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but you damn sure better know how to cut. When you go grab a knife out your drawer, chances are you're just looking for something that can cut. I never see no one say, which is the sharpest knife? You're just grabbing something to cut. Someone call in right now. We're talking about diabolical behavior. 516-253-1150. I'm not going to sit back and make excuses for the culture anymore. I want you to hear this good. To my people who always believe in others' potential, A lot of the people that you see that you believe have potential is faulty potential because you believe that if you were in that situation, what you would do if you was that person. And in most cases, you will lie to yourself to make yourself believe that this person has more potential than they truly have. Ultimately losing because the person never had potential. They do things that work against themselves. Imagine doing everything to get fired from a job and then getting mad that you got fired from a job. This is crazy. We do everything to be broke and then we wonder why we broke. You just gotta look at people sometime. I'm like, where did you get your brain? Where did you get your thoughts? Where did you get this mentality? Guys, we can't fix what we can't see. And what you can't acknowledge, you will not fix. An excuse will keep you content for the rest of your life, right? But change can alter one's life's trajectory. It took me years to accept that no one can want more than I want for myself. And sitting back having these conversations with myself, I started looking at all the things that I wanted to accomplish. One of the best things I've ever done was a vision board. And in this vision board, I saw the things that I wanted from life. And then I had it's a erasable board. So I had a financial goal, and every time I hit the next 1,000, I would mark it on the board. And I would mark it on the board. And I would mark it on the board. To the point where I was changing my behavior. You have to be conscious to what you're doing and acknowledge what you're doing. Today, a guy got mad at me because I said to him, the problem is when you start performing, you automatically want someone to applaud you. But sometimes you don't get the applause until the final scene of the movie. And you might be in the beginning stages of your movie and you're expecting people to clap. But sometimes people don't enjoy the movie till it's the end. And they can understand the plot and the whole story. Because a person that wants to be successful sounds crazy when they're around people who already think they're successful and they haven't done anything. And it's crazy because the mind can trick you into believing that you're in better positions than you truly believe you are. The more you tell yourself a lie, the more the lie becomes truth. We hoard whatever we want to put in our mind, we believe. The human brain is a dangerous thing. Dangerous. Listen, there's a video of Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I think it was Magic that said it. He said they won a game his rookie season against the Clippers. And he said the first thing, they had the game winner. And he said Magic went running and jumped in Kareem's arms. And Kareem threw him on the floor and was like, yo, we got another 81 games to go plus playoffs. He said, we just getting started. He said, we didn't win a championship yet. The world is full of people that want participation awards. And it's either A, you're winning or you're losing. And if you can see why you're losing, you can adjust to fix why you're losing. But if you can't accept why you're losing and making every excuse, then you're going to continue to lose. I know people who don't work nowhere near as hard as me, but yet and still they act like they're the most busiest people on earth. I'm like, oh my God. I would hate to be you. Always trying to I got so much going on. And I'm like, bro, you have nothing going on. Stop it. Stop making excuses every day, because that's going to hurt you from getting to the next level, right? But when you tell yourself the truth, you could ultimately fix it. The diabolical behavior in our culture is wrapped up on actions, beliefs, thoughts, and consistent behaviors. When talking to people, one must accept that a lot of times we are our greatest enemy, but also we could be our greatest asset. But one can become an asset to themselves when they're constantly doing the liability behaviors. If you could tell yourself 5 things that's wrong with yourself and work on those 5 things, by the time you get to 6, you'll start seeing that you've gotten way better. If you could say 5 things that you do that's bad about yourself, by the time you think about number 6 and you've been working on those 5, you'll see that you've gotten so much better. But you can't take baby steps and expect to walk a mile in a day. You gotta walk hard and fast to get to where you wanna go. They say life is a marathon, it's not a sprint. We must understand is the diabolical behavior that our culture have. And if we don't change it, life will never change for us. Till next time, guys, don't let that go over your head.